This is the fun part.
Yeah.
Well, we're now live. We should just chat. I don't know what it's like to come in with people. Oh, I know these guys. All right. People starting to come. Yay.
Yay.
Hey. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I'm Deborah Block.
And I'm Brey and Barrett.
And people are coming in the room right now. So we'll do our formal introductions in probably about a minute as people come in, or about 30 seconds. Thank you all for being here. It's so exciting to watch the little number of people come and pop up. There you go. All right. Oh, one more. All right. A nice group of people here tonight.
I wish we were playing music.
Oh, okay. Well, you
don't have music for you all.
Yeah, we don't have music. I asked Brey to sing, but she turned me down.
Not this time.
Margaret, yay. All right, why don't we get started? Hi, my name is Deborah Block. I'm the producing artistic director of Theatre Exile. Brey.
Hi, I'm Brey and Barrett. I am the interim associate artistic director.
And thank you all for being here tonight. We are very excited to talk about our season. Hola to everyone out there. So this is how this goes. We talk about these last anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes maximum. And we want to just talk to you today a little bit about our process for selecting the season and talk about the season as well. If at any point you have a question, just put it in the chat. We'll be checking it out. If you see me looking to the side, that's what I'm doing, or looking at the chat, and we will incorporate them. And usually at the end, last 5 minutes when things start slowing down, we like to open up the room so that we can see each other. I really miss seeing everyone. We all love theater because we like being together in a room when we know we can't be like that right now. So it's great to have these conversations, but I have to say I love seeing everyone at the end, and if anyone has any final questions then. So that's how it'll work. So please, as you go along, if you have any questions. I'm thrilled that Brey and I get to talk together. And Brey and I have been working together for many years. I'm not sure how many of you had a chance to meet Brey. So Brey, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and maybe just a little bit about your history with Theatre Exile.
Cool. Well, I am a director by training, which I guess is helpful when I'm directing the first show of the season. I went to the University of the Arts here in Philadelphia. I came from California. I was born and raised in Orange County, California. And my senior year of college, I needed to do an internship, and there really wasn't a theater company that I wanted to work at as much as Theatre Exile after seeing Lieutenant Manishmore, in particular, because it just blew my mind. I was like, yeah, look at that grit. And so I applied, and Deborah Block and the managing director at the time thought that I was worth hiring and bringing on. And so I'm one of those examples of starting as an intern and working my way up. So I was the director of new play development for a time, and then went and spread my wings to other places, where I worked at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center for a summer, and also worked in company management for the Broadway show Dear Evan Hansen, and then came back to Theatre Exile. And it's been really interesting to come back. It kind of feels like coming back to my roots. I learned so much about my craft and about the inner workings of nonprofit theater. So thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting to come back, and I'm even more excited to be making my directorial debut at Theatre Exile this year.
Making your directorial debut with Theatre Exile.
Yeah, for Theatre Exile.
Yeah.
Clear. This is the main stage I'm doing after having previously directed 5 studio exhibition readings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one of them is our first show, and we'll talk about when they get to that. One of the things we wanted to talk to you about was just a little bit behind the curtains about how we select a season. And Brey is just the perfect person to talk about that. I've never met anyone who is more passionate about plays and playwrights, and she gets so excited. And hopefully she'll share some of that enthusiasm with you when we talk about choosing a season. And it's really tricky. There's so many things you have to think about. Obviously, the scope of your theater. What can we produce well? What can we do well? And every theater has a different identity and a different passion and a different set of skills. And so it's really important to find a play that meets you where you are, and you sort of bring out the best in each other. And but then there are, and obviously finances fit into it as well, but then there are there's philosophies and goals that we have. And hey, Brey, do you want to talk a little bit about some of like the things that we look at when we're selecting a play?
Yeah, so Theatre Exile kind of sometimes finds itself Venn diagramming with some of the other theater companies here in Philadelphia. But one of the main like phrases that we always come back to is that we explore the gray morality of the human condition. We're always trying to look for plays that are people dealing with questions that they don't know the answer to, even if it seems like it would be a really obvious answer. More often than not, they have to question their own humanity in the choices that they're making. And so sometimes that can exist in really like macro ways. I kind of think of like the invisible hand in that way, that we're like looking at people who are dealing with the whole world and big, huge decisions that affect the world. And then really like small familial experiences. For me, I always go to Annapurna when I think about the intimacy of just like morality in those small moments. So when we're looking at plays, we're looking for moments where people are really have to face their own humanity and the moral choices that they're making within these circumstances that are completely out of their control. So yeah, I think that's always the first avenue artistically when we're reading plays. And then there are many other like elements to why we're choosing plays that we do. We want to make sure that the season fits together. We talk about it as like a puzzle very often, that if we're going to do this one play, we have to consider these 3 other plays and which one matches that one play better. And like it's very interesting, which leads us to reading a lot of plays that we may not have produced yet, but maybe in the future. So yeah, that's kind of a general.
One of the things that that I think you said that was really nice, when we talk about wanting our plays to be timely, we talk about issues that are timely right now, or issues that people are dealing with, but it's not that we want to shine a light on the issue. We're not doing a political play or a play with like that has like an agenda around the issue. It is the humans, it's our journeys against that. And that's why there's so much gray morality, because in real life, right and wrong is really hard to navigate sometimes, even though it's really nice on a manifesto, but it doesn't really work in reality. And that's usually where things are, the tension can arise. When Brey was talking about the composition of things, for Theatre Exile specifically, I mean, and I'm sure this affects other companies as well, we think about the cast size, we think about the production scope, we think about not just how the plays work together thematically, because really, in truth, it's not like we set out to do, we want to do a show that's about, human interest. Rather, we let them those issues come together, and usually, because we're reading plays that feel timely and relevant now, there ends up being some sort of synergy between the plays. But when we're talking about the composition, it's often about how the audience will experience it. So you all know, you saw on the Exhale last year, is a beautiful one-person show. I mean, Sully Holland did just an extraordinary job telling that story. Well, I wouldn't do 2 one-person shows in a season. I just wouldn't, because that is a certain type of relationship to the audience. And so thinking about the nature of the storytelling, so that there's a variety in how the audience experiences something, is important to us, whether that comes through how the story is told, or what the story is, or the nature of the storytelling. But there's some sort of variety that maybe you can't even put your finger on, but when you look at it, that makes a nice season. So that's something that we consider as well. Also, we love to do new plays, and I would do as many new plays as we possibly can, but in truth, really, I probably wouldn't do more than 1 in a season. And the reason we pick 1 in a season is that there needs to be extra love and attention to a world premiere. And we're a smaller company, and it's how much time can Brey and I tend to the development of the play and do all the other things that we do. If we were a huge company, we might have a different feeling about that. But for who we are, I think 1 in a season feels about right. Wouldn't you agree, Brey?
I mean, you said it. I love playwrights, so I'm always keen on doing a lot more new plays. But I do agree that our resources, both like our financial resources and also our human resources, are often a little more limited to do more than that, because we do care so much about the playwrights and giving them the time and breath to create the piece that's going to be something that they're very proud of. I'm afraid that I'm like freezing, so sorry, but we're good. Yeah, and I think also there's something to introducing new playwrights to our audiences, even if they are more established playwrights, such as we brought in Lucas Nath, who had been seen in several different cities regionally, but had not been in Philadelphia yet. And I'm really proud that we were able to introduce Lucas to our audiences and to Philadelphia. That was one of my favorite experiences of like season planning and choosing a play. Yeah.
And that happens often, that we get playwrights sort of on their way up. So when we did Red Speedo, no one had done him in Philadelphia. He was just really starting to get attention. And I have to tell you, just sort of a behind the scenes thing, it took us forever to get the rights of the play, not because they didn't want to give it to us, because he was like, oh, I have an agent, but now someone else is managing our rights. It's this thing that happens with us a lot, because we're catching playwrights on the way up. And Lucas came here and came to a rehearsal process, and that was wonderful. We have a very long list of playwrights that we were the first to produce in Philadelphia. Annie Baker, Tracy Letts, Lucas Nate. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. And we're very proud to have introduced Philadelphia to these playwrights that are exceptionally well known now. Rajiv Joseph, we were the first professional production, I think, and second professional productions of his in Philadelphia. But let's talk a little bit about this season, now that we have sort of like a little bit of a background on him. So I will tell you, as you might have guessed, doing anything and planning for this season was like crazy making. I describe it as like we're running forward, but we're like chest high in mud, you know? And our team was intact, and we're like, that was really wonderful that our whole team was together to help us do, but it was like navigating the unknown. Who knew what was going to be. And it took us a really, really long time to simply decide that we are going to do a season and we're going to try and mimic what we normally do. And the only thing we're going to do is we're going to be creative in how we tell the stories.
Yeah.
And actually the selection of the first play, and Brey, why don't you talk about that, was really a key for making sure we knew that we were going to be able to do a season.
Yeah, so we've kind of discussed some of the rules that we normally have to work in, but there was a new one, a very specific new one, which was adaptability to these times. We were looking for scripts in which, if we had to continue to no longer be gathered, we wanted to still be able to present something. So we have been looking at Jeremy Gable's D-Pad for years. It had gone through studio exhibition, our new play development series, about 5 years ago. And it was a really wonderful experience directing that play, working on that play. Jeremy's quite a wonderful writer and a really easy collaborator. However, every season that we went back to it, we didn't feel that it was right for that season's makeup. And I think Deb and I were kind of talking about this a little bit right before everyone joined, but I think it was just kind of sitting there waiting for this moment. It lives in a digital world kind of already. It being about a game developer who is in communication with her creation. There's a lot about isolation and a lot about like manufactured distancing, and because there's so much relationship with the internet as well, there's a lot of characters in there that kind of live in the anonymity of being so far away from people and that human connection. And so there's something really valuable to explore. And because we're able to now put it into a digital space, we're able to play in digital form a little bit more. We're going to be working with a green screen designer, a media designer. We are going to have an opportunity to have the back end of the game being shown, which is a little bit, that would have been really interesting on stage, but this feels more akin to its reality, the plays, the narrative's reality. Yeah, so it just felt really natural when we were talking about adaptability, and particularly digital adaptability, that we could do this play. And even more wonderful is we have access to the playwright, and he was able to adapt to change his script to a virtual edition. So it's very purposeful in the separation of these characters. Yeah.
Once we selected, that Margaret, right, it was waiting for its perfect time. It, in fact, when we were talking with Jeremy, there were some theatrical stretches in the storytelling of the play that was made for it to be on stage. But when it came time to adapt it to virtual, it was easy, because these people he artificially put people together that probably wouldn't have been talking together in real life. And so to actually show the gamers how they communicated, which was they're rarely in rooms together, and was a natural adaptation. And the reason that this was, well, first was so exciting to be able to do Jeremy's play. And as Brey said, because Jeremy's here in Philadelphia and Jeremy was getting, and I gotta tell you, that guy does his rewrites so fast, it's kind of scary. I was like, Jeremy, you need to do a rewrite. And it's oh, it's in your inbox already. It's crazy fast, but he was able to do, I don't know who that is. He was able to do these adaptations really quickly and react to the truth of what the storytelling was going to be. And so it's not a play that we're shoving in a box. Mm-hmm. It is actually in its organic form. And that's what was so exciting for us. And I know for me personally, made me feel like, okay, we can do this. Theatre Exile can figure out a season. We have this one play. We know we're going to do this. and we understand that there are plays that we can adapt to the storytelling to make it right. And so when we were accidentally very fortunate that we had not announced our season yet when the world came crashing down. Believe me, we were trying to announce our season and we weren't ready. Something was not working. We didn't have all of our season together. There are things that we were thinking of. And when everything came crashing down, it gave us the time to step back and say, what is right for now? And so Jeremy's play was one. It's going to preview. So one of the questions is when. It's November 27th, and it runs through December 13th. And we were originally going to start our season in October, and we're like, push it back, because we just simply needed more time. And once we found Jeremy's play, we started on the journey of finding the others. And it was important to us that we pick plays that, of course, would work wonderfully on stage and would speak to Theatre Exile's mission and were good, solid scripts, but that could pivot to alternative storytelling in an organic way, which brought us to a play that Brey had brought to our attention previously that also was on the short list. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yeah, so there's the second play in our season is a play called Sin Eaters, and it follows a woman who has taken a job as a content moderator. And if you don't know about content moderators, there's a really great NPR episode that came out July-ish of 2019, and I had listened to that and then read this play. They happen around the same time. But yeah, so we're following this woman who's doing content moderation, which is basically you're going through any of those flagged posts on a social media platform. And so these are the people who are exposed to some of the most gruesome, horrible things that people see. Or that people are flagging on these platforms, and they're the ones who are deciding whether or not they violate the agreements on the platforms. And so as she's like inundated with all of these images, it kind of starts to mess with her mind, and you start to question what's real in her space and what's not. And I say all this, and yet it's also kind of funny. The play rides that tension very, very well. And I'm really excited about what Matt Pfeiffer is planning on doing with it, because Matt he's very good at acknowledging and pulling humor out of things that might initially, when you're looking at it, just alarm you. But there's like an undertone of humor that he's able to excavate. And I think that giving him Sin Eaters is going to give us that opportunity to see that excavation, while at the same time acknowledging this like weird, strange world that people unfortunately have to experience because we, wanting to use social networks, ask them to do for us. So yeah,
and there is humor in it. It's we even though we're watching sort of like the emotional unraveling of a character until like her realization of her emotional unraveling, it starts off funny because she starts seeing like her boyfriend everywhere, like, you know, she's like, and one of the things that I like to grab in a Theatre Exile play, if we can, is a playwright who uses humor in the storytelling. Quite often we're talking about serious subjects, but you all know in your lives, I know in my life, you know, you can't laugh at something like awful, like it helps you understand things. And so the playwright balances that really well in Sin Eaters. So while this would be great on stage, it also will easily adapt. It easily adapts to both of them, to online storytelling, both because of basically because of the content of both of them. But they will be told a little bit differently because in DPAD, all of the actors are in their own spaces, and because that's closer to reality, that these characters are not in the same room with each other. ever, really. And then when we're doing DPAD, we have cast, you guys are going to be the first to know. We've cast Bijan No and David Rain.
Sorry, that's for Sin Eaters.
Sin Eaters, sorry, Sin Eaters, for Sin Eaters. I haven't told you the cast for DPAD. For Sin Eaters, and they're life partners. And we're going to be recording it so they can be together. And that is really important in the story, telling that those two people are together. So it was really important that we found people that both two wonderfully talented performers who are living together. And so it will have a different experience, even if they're both happening through the screen. And we have a question, and I want to answer it before we get to the final show. It's like, so someone asked about how you're buying subscriptions and why we're offering one subscription. So here's the truth. This is a crazy year. When we were putting everything together, we want the framework to be as much as theater as you're used to. We're going to have designated times for the different shows that you're going to watch. You can, like, if you buy a ticket for one show and you need to go to another, yes, you can switch your tickets, you can do this, but we're treating it like individual shows. And but the truth is, you're going to be watching we didn't want to account for anyone's finances this year. Everything is different. There are a lot of people whose life has changed. So we tried to make this season as affordable and as accessible as possible. So if you notice, we dropped down the price of our season, and we understand that if people are living together, they're probably just going to buy one ticket and they can see it. So if you want to buy, if you're buying a subscription and you're living together, you can just buy one subscription, and that's the truth. What some people are doing is, if it's two people and they're used to buying two subscriptions, they're going to do that, because that final show, when we talk about it, is not going to be, it can't be streamed contractually. We're not going to stream it. The pivoting of the third show is that if it can't be in the theater, we're going to do it outside. So I know some people are buying two subscriptions so they'll have that second ticket for the last show, or, as is true with all the time for Theatre Exile, anytime you get a subscription, you can use them all on one show if you wanted to. You can use those tickets anytime that you wanted to. But we do have some people who are buying two tickets and then they're giving one of their subscription tickets to a friend to introduce them to Theatre Exile. So that's wonderful too. So we just wanted to be realistic and understand that everyone's going to be coming at this season in a different place than perhaps they were this time last year.
Great. So Deb, you kind of already touched on the third play pivoting to an outdoor experience, which is answers a question in the chat if we're possibly going to do any outside. Before we get into that, I want to answer the question about the virtual experience. We won't be bringing people together, so it won't be on stage as if we were in a theater in that respect. However, what we will be doing is making sure that we run the show as though it's in real time, similar to how you would experience it in the theater, versus something else, it's some other medium where it's kind of chopped up and put together, and that's what you experience. Because one of the things that we really respect about theater is this real-time reaction, this conversational opportunity, the building of character, and you as an audience member seeing that and like seeing that play out. We will be with DPAD in particular, I can speak to that. It will be a pre-recording of one of those runs that you'll be seeing as your virtual experience, but it will be real time, and that experience is so valuable that we don't want it to be upended by technical difficulties. And so that's how we're going to be presenting it this way. And I think that for me is so important, to hold on to that momentum. And that's what I get a thrill out of in seeing something in a theater. Yeah, I hope that was a valuable answer to your question.
And believe me, and one of the reasons everything's taking so long to make these decisions, we went through every machination. I
Mhm.
can tell you, we said, what does it mean for us to bring the actors together on stage? Will we be allowed to do that? Will that be safe? We came up with an entire, and I am very proud of the safety plan that we came up with to, and if we ever bring ourselves together, we have like a top-notch safety plan, I will tell you that. And we had like experts looking at it. But we decided even with that, it was not safe to bring the actors together. And the truth is, if there's a spike in Philadelphia and we are running, that's it. We would have to shut it down if we did that. There were too many variables in play. So
We would want to shut it down for the safety of our actors and those who are helping us craft this work. And I think we've come up with a really interesting and exciting solution to the problem of us having to be separated right now. And the way we're going to be telling this story, I think is still really valuable. I don't know. We had a production meeting earlier about D-Pad, and I just got super giddy about everything people were bringing to the table. So yeah, and when I say real time, I mean that the play will start and be recorded completely and then end. We won't be stopping and retaking and doing that kind of a thing.
so what, like, the way, if we were going to do a film, if we were going to, we're not bringing you a Netflix experience. It's going to be a more emotional experience that you might get in Netflix. Like, if you're doing, or in any film, they will just take shot after shot. We need 3 times this reaction shot. They don't even have the actors together sometimes when they're doing scenes. And then the magic is with the editor and the director, right? And it's beautiful and it can be wonderful, but it is a different type of experience. It's the reason that when you're in the theater, you sort of feel that emotional journey in a real way. We're trying to hold on to that as much as possible. um
Oh, interesting. Yeah, thank you, Margaret. I don't know if now is the time to talk about how we pair up directors to plays. This year, because we were in a process of finding plays around a particular set of rules, in specifically adaptability. We also wanted to take this opportunity to open up our directing pool in a way that we hadn't in the past. And so we chose the plays, and Deborah did a really great job of considering what directors would fit with what plays best for this season, and did some outreach that way. Including with our summer show for next summer, our Out of Exile show will be bringing in a new director to Theatre Exile as well. Yeah, so Deb, do you want to speak to this a little bit more?
yeah, I'll talk about that, but what I don't want to forget is I don't want to forget about talking about Passover,
No.
and which is the third show of our main stage series. And so Passover is a play that had been we had been looking at, like, it kept popping up on lists as a play that, like, somehow it was a smaller cast, something that we might be interested in. And every time I went to look at it, the first description was it was like a modern day Waiting for Godot. Now, I love Waiting for Godot, but I did not think absurdist drama in Waiting for Godot was quite right for Theatre Exile. And so I never read it. And this summer I did read it, and it was astonishing. It's such an amazing play. It is a 3-person play. So it follows the structure of Waiting for Godot. Those of you who like it, it's like two close friends, close like brothers, but not brothers, friends, that in Waiting for Godot, they're hanging out under a tree. And in Passover, they're sitting under a street lamp. And they're basically hanging out on the corner. And it's two Black men who, they're in their neighborhood. And the visitor who comes in from the outside, it's one actor who plays 2 different characters, a very, like, almost absurdly nice white guy who's carrying a picnic basket looking for his mother's house and can't find it. And they strike up a conversation, and as well as later as a police officer. And so it is, it really illuminates some of the issues that are happening in the African-American community in the Black neighborhoods right now, violence against Black men, and it was really moving. It was a very moving play, and I was thrilled that Ozzie Jones wanted to direct it and was interested in doing it, and I thought he'd be a perfect director for it to bring voice to this play. And I think it could be divisive. There's a lot of the N word is used a lot. It's used between the two men, right? And that's part of the conversation about who can use that word, who cannot. And it can be really jarring. I had a lot of people read it to make sure that this was something that we wanted to explore, because when Steppenwolf did it a number of years ago, it really got a lot of conversations, and it really just sent the playwright into the national spotlight. It was picked up by the Lincoln Center, and Spike Lee came and did a recording of it. It was just really got a lot of attention, and was so thrilled that Theatre Exile was able to get the rights to do this play, and that Ozzie was going to be able to lead it. And again, we picked it not just because it's a wonderful play, but because it takes place on a street corner. We literally can take this outside and put it on the street corner. In some ways, I feel like that would even be the best place to do it. So Robin's asking about maybe we can do things in the parks. I'm not sure we'd be allowed to do this in the park across the street, or would want to, because of some of the language. I would want to make sure it's in a place that's safe for people, just, considering about people's experience. But it will be wonderful outside. And so that's the way we would pivot this third show. Great. All right. Should I go back to Margaret's question? Actually, there's just one comment that came in to just talk about selecting this play. Actually, with any play is not a solitary process. It's not me sitting in a room just reading plays. It's not Brey just reading plays. There are conversations that happen, and I will tell you with Passover specifically. We had a lot of people read the plays, the Black members of the staff and the board. Specifically, I wanted their buy-in on the play and conversations with everyone to talk about it. And it was really, I think, a really powerful process. And I'm very grateful that we have such a diverse community, both in board and staff, in order to have those honest conversations. Were you going to add something?
No, I was just going to say there was some affirmation in having having our Black staff and our Black members on the board reading this script, because as a white person reading it, I found it to be a really well written, very interesting script. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be able to say whether or not Theatre Exile should be producing it. And so I am deeply grateful for their insight and bringing that to our attention as to whether or not we should be being so vocal in the conversation about whether or not we should be producing this play. And I think it's also really wonderful that Ozzie's going to be on board to be the helm of it. But I also very grateful for our staff and board being vocal around this play in particular.
Yep. One of the things we're starting, wow, we've been talking for a while, Brey. There's a question about exile pairs and how we connect, but I think we talked a little bit about that. But I will say that my conversation with Matt about this play, because I wasn't sure if Matt was going to direct this season, honestly. As Brey said, we wanted to open that up, and my God, he was so passionate about it and so excited about it doing it outside of a traditional theater storytelling. And in this time of so much uncertainty, and we don't know how we're going to tell this story, to have a director who had a very strong vision and was so excited about doing it in the virtual format, it just had to happen. You know, you can't pass up on that passion about the arts, because that's really what moves us.
I will say that I think that that's been really key with all of the directors for this season's plays, because we all have to like reimagine the way that we would be directing a play. The passion is it's very deep. I mean, I've been attached, or like I've had a relationship with D-Pad for 5 years and have watched it evolve in so many different ways. And I'm very excited about it. Matt's excitement around Sin Eaters is wonderful and exciting. And then Ozzy, like, just like oh God, I love Ozzy's energy. Just jumped on board and was like, I know this play. I know exactly how it should, how it should be done. And that's what we look for in general when we want to pair up directors with plays, I think, in the theater industry on the whole. But this year it was even more necessary to have that passion and have that vision and have a way of articulating how we would do it differently if we couldn't be in a theater. So,
and I'll say one thing about Ozzy, and again, about Passover. I had a lot of people read it, we talked about it, and there's a lot of conversations around it. But Ozzy talked about the love between the two men, and how important that was to show. And that's what was important to me, that the play doesn't work, and you'll see the play, but the play doesn't work if the two men don't genuinely love and care for each other. And the fact that he was talking about that human part of the story, not just the background of the story, which is the, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and the violence against Black men, but he resonated with us making sure that we show the love between the two men. That's important, and that's what makes an Exile play, is that we are showing the people navigating a difficult situation. We're not just illuminating the situation. Great. I think what I'd like to do, oh wait, let's just talk one more thing. Brey, you had mentioned our summer show. Let's just mention this, like, just all out really quickly. R. Eric Thomas, who, if you do not know R. Eric Thomas, you should Google R. Eric Thomas right now. And he is a man on the internet. He writes he's tweeting all the time. He has books out. Lin-Manuel, what?
Eric reads the news on Elle. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Lin-Manuel Miranda says he's the funniest man he's ever read. And he is astonishing. And he had lived in Philadelphia, so we reached out to him we commissioned him to write a play that would be an all ages show that we'll do for free in the parks this summer. So, Robin, there'll be plays in the park. Hopefully ours across the street, but there'll be plays in the park this summer, Theatre Exile. And Brett Ashley Robinson is going to be directing that show, and I'm super thrilled. Okay, so there's just a couple technical questions. Yes?
I want to throw out that R. Eric Thomas not only will be writing for our summer show, but is also our MC for the cabaret that's coming up on the 28th. I hope it's a virtual cabaret. I hope you folks will join. And you can get some of his hilarity in that experience as well.
Yep, it's great. We have all sorts of wonderful performers, just being weird and wonderful in a way that you can only be weird and wonderful for Theatre Exile. So, and you can do it at home. And so that'll be this coming Wednesday night at 7:00 is when it starts, and it's going to be fun. Miss Martha Graham-Cracker is ending our evening with a couple of wonderful shows. Martha's pianist, Victor Fiorello, the partner in music in Miss Martha Graham-Cracker Cabaret, his piano was broken, so we actually brought them in. We were masked and all to record in the theater, and it was just so wonderful. So I just hope that you will come and enjoy that experience with us, because it's just going to be, like I said, weird and fun and relaxing and a perfect escape, because we all know we all need a little bit of escape right now. We have a couple questions, and then what I'd like to do is just open it up so we can see each other, because like I said, I miss seeing people. So Stan, you're asking, I have a brochure and it shows when the performances occur. So what's going to be happening with the plays is, in the virtual ones, they will be performed at the different times that are listed in the brochure. As a subscriber, you can bounce around to different times. You just have to communicate with us, and then we will give you your seat. And then if you need to move it as a subscriber, we work that out. But it's not like one of those things like, it's going to be running for 48 hours and you can just watch it anytime. It will go at the times that it said. We're trying to mimic the structure of a play. Honestly, it was hard to come up with our subscription model if we didn't do that, especially since the last play will definitely be in person, either outside or in the theater.
And to my in-laws, hello, I love you. We have not talked about this, actually, the idea of doing theatrical performances after the pandemic ends for online, for those who might be engaging with Theatre Exile outside of Philadelphia. There's a lot that goes into creating virtual productions, as we've been discovering with DPAD and Sin Eaters. So although it would be wonderful, I don't know if that's something that will be a part of our model, but I would love to talk about it.
It is things that we can talk about once something's recorded. There's a lot of union considerations that we have to think about. Honestly, our actors' unions are in a mess right now. And when we talk about some of the obstacles that we've had to navigate, it is the actors' union. They are both trying their best to take care of their performers and also making some really weird decisions that create unnatural barriers for doing work.
I will say though, we have no clue what they're going through right now. So we're kind of saying this from one side of the issue. It is something that does factor into how we would move forward in the future with virtual presentation of any kind, whether or not it's sharing pre-recorded stuff or doing something live stream. Yeah, and to Jim's question, I know for DPAD,
we will be for Sin Eaters too.
We will be pre-recording and then streaming that pre-recorded run of the show for each performance time. And that is mostly to safeguard your experience as the audience member in the event that anybody in the many different spaces that they're in has some kind of technical difficulty. We want to make sure that you are able to enjoy the fullness of the journey of each play without those kinds of concerns.
Yeah, I mean, and when we said we went through the machinations of this, so we actually tried to create a scenario where every evening would be live. And there were so many variables in terms of the technology that the actors could have, how long and how much we would have to take over their homes for the length of time. It was really prohibitive. And again, just even like snafus in glitches in Wi-Fi. So it's not just for you, but for each of the actors, and how much broadcast band we would be using every evening in order to have that live for you. It started to become prohibitive. And so it was really kicking and screaming. We went to this, we made this decision. It was not an easy one. And
however, I state, I'm very excited about what we're going to be able to do with folks, especially after our production meeting today. We have an awesome team for DPAD, and I can only assume that we're going to have an awesome team for Sin Eaters that's getting really creative about how we can make sure that you are having a quality experience of watching this play in its entirety. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and once every time we make one of these these important decisions, creativity gets to happen. And so, like Bree said, we had this wonderful meeting with the designers, and so that you can have a positive experience, so it won't feel like just a Zoom call, which is, while I'm thrilled that you're here with us on Zoom right now, this is not the experience that you're going to have when you watch DPAD. It just won't be this. And so that was how we decided that we really needed to be able to take the time, especially because one of the characters in DPAD is an avatar. And so here, I thought I'd share it.
Thank you. So I do want to let Deborah bring folks in as she misses you all. And also just point out that we are aware there's a presidential debate happening in 10 minutes, and we do want that to be something that those who are civically minded are able to watch. So I don't know how this happens. I don't know how everyone joins us.
I actually think the debate is starting at 9 and that the football game is starting at 8:30.
Oh, okay. So we have two different demographics to attend to right now.
We always do, because Theatre Exile audiences are wonderful and diverse. And as I've said many, many times, I'll have lunch with any one of our Theatre Exile audiences because they're fascinating people. So what Jack, who's been behind the scenes, is doing right now is he's bringing everyone in. So he's taking you from being an attendee to a panelist. So if you want to, you don't have to if you don't want to. If you want to, you can unmute yourself and turn on your video camera so that I can see you all. And yes, it's really, really just selfish. I miss you all. Yay. Yeah. And Liza, I will always recognize you because with your bicycle hat on. I got Liza's mom. I was riding by, I usually wear a helmet, and there was one day I was not wearing a helmet and I bumped into Liza's mom, and she just wagged her finger at me, something fierce. I will never, ever, ever do that again.
I'm definitely waving to my mother-in-law, Beverly. Hello.
I'm waving to your mother-in-law too. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Brey.
Yeah. There's the entire Solera Ukta family, not entirely, just part of them. Hello. Oh, yay. Oh, it is so good to see you all.
He said hi.
Hey. That's great.
Oh, wonderful.
Hey,
Hi,
Elias.
Deborah. Hi,
Hey.
Deborah.
Hey, Elias, how are you? It is great to see you.
Good. How are you?
Good. It's so happy. Yeah, this makes me unnaturally happy. We're all friends. You can deal with my jerkiness, right? Yeah.
We would expect no less.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see I could probably, like, Robin is just one alleyway across from us. You're probably Theatre Exile's closest neighbor. Yeah.
I don't have to cross the street to get there.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're on our side of the street, right? Okay, good. Anyone else? Hey, Carolyn. If anyone doesn't know Carolyn, also from the Exile team.
Hi, Liza.
And thank you guys for coming in. Anyone else have any other final questions? No? Good. I hope we were able to answer your questions. It is a weird season. Just the world is weird. And I'm just so appreciative that you guys are going on this artistic journey with us, because we're all trying things together. And one of the things when we were trying to decide what we're doing, if you'll actually notice, I'm not necessarily calling what we're going to be experiencing theater, but we are doing. And when I had to, like, okay, I'm going to start this and say it as a complete sentence. The only way I think organizations will survive, and even individuals will survive this, is if you get in touch with your essential goals and what it is, your essential strengths. So, and while theater and people being together is incredibly important to me and Theatre Exile and all of us, I also knew telling interesting stories in order to help us navigate the truth of our time was also important. So I thought that Theatre Exile is in the position to be able to pivot and tell interesting stories in a theatrical way, but also adapt to the truth of the time. Because I love y'all too much to put anyone in harm's way, but we still want to connect and be able to discuss what's going on in the world and help us figure it out. So that's how we decided to do it. And it's a journey and an experiment. So
Thank you for being here.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Margaret.
Well,
Thank
this
you.
is nice for us because we're on the West Coast.
Ah,
And when we've seen Theatre Exile performances and other Philadelphia performances, we've had to cross from the West Coast to the East Coast to see anything, any of your theatrical performances. And like you said, this is storytelling, and storytelling is art. So maybe you don't want to call it theater, but acting is telling the story of the character. And that's what you're doing. So it's theater in a different form, but it's still theater. And those of us on the West Coast or not in the Philadelphia area can enjoy it.
and we're really happy to be able to do that, especially for a DPAD, where we can, we are actually going to have a West Coast performance time that we can do. So to share it with our West Coast friends like you. Yeah.
Yay!
I don't suppose you have any relation to the playwright, do you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do.
And
To
what
the
might that
playwright
be?
and the director.
Oh, there you go.
But we have gone from West Coast to East Coast twice to see shows that they were either directing or performing in. And it's just nice that with all this horrible pandemic that's going on, this is a light. We can still see theater even though it's online, instead of being in the theater and being able to enjoy seeing the actors up close. It's still theater.
Well, that's great. And I hope it speaks to you. I hope you do. And then, like I said, thank you for going on this journey with us.
Well, we will go ahead and become subscribers, and I guess we probably won't get to see the last one because you said it is not going to be virtual.
It will
So
not.
you can just give our tickets to someone else.
All right, well, share the love, or you can use those tickets that you won't know to another performance. So you can use 4 tickets to DPAD. You can use them any way you want to. It's a flex pass. We always do that. We try to make it as easy for anyone.
All right.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you guys so much for
Okay,
being here. I'm going to say goodbye.
Well, thank
So-
you. So nice to hear
Thank
from
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you for being. Where's your partner in crime, Robert?
Working, of course.
Of course.
Working, yes.
Okay, well, tell her I say hi.
I sure will. Look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yep, you will.
Bye.
Hi.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
Deborah.
Thank you for your questions, Jim and Margaret and Robin. I still. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.